So can you hear that? Birds singing. Might even get a bee if we're lucky. And the inevitable car running past in the background. So it's a bright, sunny afternoon here, which is kind of welcome after the weather we've had so far this year. And I recognise just how lucky I am to be able to sit outside to record this for you. It's only a few minutes long, but maybe it helps us to think about what things could be like for us on the other side of this crisis. First, I want to read you just the first few verses from an ancient Hebrew song, Psalm 40, which is a song of thanksgiving for deliverance and a prayer for help. It goes like this. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the desolate pit, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. Put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. That might sound maybe optimistic for where we are at the moment, but maybe just a few words about newness and what could come through this time. Walking down a cliff path in North Cornwall on a day not that unlike today, my sister Ruth and I came across a bush that was alive with movement. As we looked more closely, we could see it being slowly consumed by caterpillars. And you kind of had to feel sorry for the bush, wondering how much of it would be left once the invaders had feasted on their host's succulent leaves. Now, imagine just one caterpillar, who's reached a state of fullness, who's become an animal pregnant with change. She stops eating and begins to spin her chrysalis. When her temporary abode is complete, she seals herself off from the world, just as we are being sealed off from so much of our worlds. What happens next is awe-inspiring. She begins to secrete digestive juices, and then she liquefies. She becomes a kind of caterpillar soup, although not completely. What remains are little packets of cells, sometimes as few as 50 cells, and they're called imaginal discs. They were there while she was a caterpillar, the physical reimagining of what she would become. But when she enters the chrysalis, she undergoes a kind of death. And all that is left are her imaginings of what she will be. If you try and break into the chrysalis, you will destroy her chances of becoming. She must go through the transition time, and it takes as long as it takes. There are no shortcuts. From these semi-liquid remains, she rebuilds herself, now becoming a butterfly, yet still her metamorphosis is incomplete. When she's ready to crack open the cocoon, she must struggle to escape it. The struggle itself is vital, because that's what pumps blood into her wings. If you feel sorry for her and try to help her escape without a struggle, she'll never fly. You will condemn her to an early earthbound death, never able to take to the air for which she's intended. One thing which is certain is she can never go back. She can never return to being a caterpillar. That part of her existence is done with and over. It served its purpose in setting her up for the struggle to become what she is now. I know we're getting closer to Easter, but this isn't actually a metaphor for resurrection. Instead, it's a metaphor for change, for transition. All of us, if we are true spiritual seekers, will go through some kind of dark night of the soul on our journey. And for many of us, that's being started by what we're going through in our isolation right now. The dark night of the soul for a spiritual seeker is an inevitability. And isolation may be the spark which sets it off for some of us. When we go through it, it can feel as if we are liquefying, and the process is painful. But it cannot be hurried. The process can break us down into the imaginings of what was always present, but which needed time to be allowed to take form. That which we were may even be the fuel used by the reimaginings to make what we may yet be. But it takes time, and it can't be hurried. Love, care, and attention is what's needed, and patience, maybe a lot of patience. As I said, this can't be hurried. None of us know what we will be like on the other side of this crisis. It's quite possible that friends and family members may struggle to understand the new butterflies that we could become. Our struggle with them, with ourselves, and maybe with the Spirit herself, is what pushes blood into our newly formed wings. Yet without that struggle, we will never become a creature of the air, a creature of the Spirit, a creature able to be blown on the breath of the Spirit. And we must never feel abandoned in that struggle. The Spirit herself stands watching, knowing that even she cannot pull us from our chrysalis, because we must be flight ready, and that requires the pins and needles pain of blood being pumped into wings which have never opened. So she stands attentively, encouragingly, lovingly. She waits. The crisis begins to pass. We begin to emerge from our homes, and slowly our wings open, and the Spirit takes a readying breath.